Hello and welcome to The Hub, powered by Manpower of Richmond. I am your host, Michael Allen, and here on The Hub, we interview local business leaders, community partners, and various special guests. We share unique and untold stories of companies, organizations, and people who are making a difference in our community. Listeners, if you know of anybody looking for employment, check out our jobs at mprichmond.com or send your resume to resume@mprichmond.com. Our local franchise has offices in Richmond, Portland, and Connersville, and soon coming to Newcastle. And at Manpower, we have various options to specifically meet your employment needs. We are a locally owned, but a national brand, community-invested staffing company, and we've been serving the area since 1966. So today with me is Roger Golden. He is president of Golden Engineering, located at 6364 Means Road in Centerville. They were founded in 1973, and they're a manufacturer of portable X-ray generators. Welcome, Roger.
Thanks you.
Thanks for coming on today. And one of the traditions I've started here on the Hub is to ask our guests about their very first job. So going back a few years, what was the first job that you had where you actually got like a paycheck and had taxes taken out?
Well, if you want, very first job was working in a strawberry farm when I was like 12. That doesn't count, but anyway.
Well, it does.
Made like $1 an hour.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That was a big deal. So summer job. First real job, like post-college, was for EDS, Electronic Data Systems, working at a Chevrolet branch office in Troy, Michigan.
What did you do there? What?
I listened to people complain about their cars, Chevrolet. I worked at a customer service center, so when you'd call in the 800 number and you had questions on your warranty or stuff the dealership wasn't able to take care of, that's where your call went. So they're like, it was fun. I mean, a couple hundred post-college graduates, so it was a fun environment.
What was kind of like the hot car that they were making at that time?
I mean, same. You had, Corvette. That was Camaro. You had, those would be the big ones.
Yeah, because the models have changed quite a bit over the years. But I'm sure they were still making pickup trucks.
Yeah, there are funny stories. I had one guy call in, and he had like a Camaro, and he wanted to race someone, and he was calling in, and he wanted to find out how to undo the governor on it. It maxed it out at like 120 miles an hour or something. And he's like, how do I undo this? I'm like, we can't tell you that.
Yeah,
so, anyway, you ran into all kinds of things.
Yeah, I bet that was. Did you do that very long?
I did it for like a year and a half. Uh-huh. And it wasn't bad. It was enjoyable.
So tell us a little bit about kind of where you're from, your upbringing.
So I was born in Detroit, 1967, and then grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, till I was a freshman in high school. And then I moved down, started at Centerville right after Thanksgiving break, my freshman year. So it was a big change, but I enjoyed it.
How did your parents decide to come to Richmond?
My mom had grown up here. She lived in the Greens Fork area, and they had farmland. And my dad, he had started this business in Ann Arbor in early 70s, and he wanted to get away from just Southeast Michigan. I was born in the middle of the riots in 67 up there in Detroit, and he saw that and was kind of like, I don't know about this area. And he grew up in Lafayette. That's where he was from. So he wanted to get back to like farming community and back to Indiana.
That had to be pretty tough. Like, you're going to school in this area your whole life, and all of a sudden you're in high school, and then you're just totally transplanted into a whole nother school system, no friends, whatever. Was that a little challenging? That seemed like
but I went from a big school system to a small one. So, you go to Centerville, and there's 130 people in the class, and you're the new kid. and so you got a lot of attention, and it wasn't bad.
Good.
It was good.
So, and then you were being from Michigan originally. You didn't you end up going back to school in Michigan?
No, I went to.
I thought maybe you did, but
interested in that kind of. I thought, I grew up in the campus of University of Michigan. Thought, oh, this would be great. But I went to Taylor, which is an hour and a half from here.
Okay,
and my sister had gone there. She was a senior my freshman year, and my mom was like, "Well, why don't you go there? You guys can share a car your freshman year, and then decide if you want to go someplace different." I went there, and I really liked it. It was a small school, but probably more social environment with 1,500 students, maybe.
What did you decide to study at Taylor?
Business.
Business, just like a business degree. Was there any specialty that you took, or was it just?
It was business systems, so kind of a computer emphasis. But
yeah. I mean, I would suspect computers then are a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
I think my biggest exposure to computers, like when I was at Ball State, was like just a Mac word processor. That was like the extent of it at the time.
Took like a COBOL programming class, and definitely was a lot different now.
Whole nother world.
Yeah.
So eventually you came to work at Golden Engineering, but how long did you have a career outside of Golden before you came back here to work at Golden Engineering?
Well, I was up in Detroit at that Chevrolet office for like a year and a half. I started getting tired of it. I thought I might move back here, and then I ended up moving to New York and working in a Chevrolet branch office. But I'd interviewed to work at one of those, like I want to work in Cincinnati or someplace in the Midwest, and that didn't go through. And then they came to me like on a Friday and said, "Hey, we have this opening in New York. You'd start Monday." This was on a Friday.
Wow.
"We'll give you a half hour to decide." And I called back. I talked to my mom actually, and she's like, "Go, experience New York." And so I went, and I was out there for a year, and then they closed that branch office where I was. So I decided I either would have to stay within General Motors and find a different place to work. So I'm like, it's time to go back home. So that's when I came back.
And that's when you started working
at Golden Engineering.
And what year would that have been?
90, the end of 92.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little nervous because I was like, I wasn't married, and I'm like, okay, if I move back to Centerville, I'll probably live there the rest of my life, and it's not the most exciting place as a 25-year-old single person. So I was a little nervous about that, but that was great.
Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons why I was really, I've known you for a long time, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is just because our relationship, but also your company is celebrating 50 years this year, and then your company makes a product that I think is unique in that I'm not sure how many people in the local community really know what it is what Golden Engineering manufactures. At least the people I've talked to sometimes and mentioned your company, they've maybe heard of it, or they've known you through your involvement in the community one way or another. But as far as what you manufacture, so maybe you could just kind of cover that a little bit about what you make, what your product is.
So it's battery-powered portable X-ray machines. So they're powered by DeWalt battery packs, like same battery you have on a drill. And they weigh between 5 pounds and 15 pounds, depending on the model. They'll go through a 1/2 inch of steel up to almost 2 inches of steel.
Mm-hmm.
So the primary market for this is bomb detection, security. So that'd be U.S. government, bomb squads, military. But then there's also something called non-destructive testing. So like petrochemical industry. So if they want to look at pipes, like we have a lot on the North Slope up in Alaska. So look through the insulation and look at the status of the pipe, see if there's any cracks in the welds.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So this was a product that your father invented or came up with the idea or perfected an idea, or?
I would say perfected or enhanced the idea. He was an engineer at a company up there called Bendix Aerospace, and he was on a project where they made an X-ray, and he changed the design, and that was, so he kind of perfected it or improved it.
Right. So your client base is international.
Correct.
And so, I mean, who purchases this? I mean, what kind of people do you come across, or companies, or I guess maybe government, or maybe just follow up with that a little bit more about who would.
Well, the first X-ray we ever, and we're in our 50-year celebration this year. So the first product we ever delivered went to the Knoxville Police Department. That was November 18th of 1973. The next two that we sold went to the Netherlands, and it went to their government. So I don't know, Ministry of Defense or Ministry of Interior. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they found out about it exactly, but they did, and then they contacted an agent to get a hold of us to buy through them. So when we sell internationally, we have distributors. So a distributor will have a territory, like usually a country. So we had an agent in the Netherlands. We have probably 30, 40 different agents around the world now. So that's how we sell internationally. But U.S. government is probably 30% of our sales. International is about 30%. And small engineering firms use it for forensic engineering.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard any kind of interesting story about, when it comes to like bomb detection or something, from someone that's used your product, that they found something that was like something bad could have really happened, but they were able to find, detect it through your product? I mean, has anybody ever shared a kind of an interesting story with you like that, or not?
Yeah, well, every day. I mean, it's used. We've had. I mean, the people that use it will say, it saved hundreds of lives. So, yeah, they're X-raying something that's going to blow up, and if they didn't see it in the X-ray, they would have maybe tried to disarm it, and it could have blown up and killed them. So it happens all the time. You probably heard of the Unabomber. Mm-hmm. They use the X-ray on his cabin to look for booby traps and things like that. So, yeah,
Yeah, I guess there's so much of that goes on behind the scenes that people probably are clueless to the number of times that stuff like that's going on, where they're using that product.
Yeah, a lot of times it's something that's not, it's like just a backpack that someone left somewhere. That's 95% of the time, fortunately, but there are times when it's not that.
Yeah. You went to work with your father. In my business, I worked with my dad for at least closely for about 25 years. What was that experience like working with your dad? It's the dynamics can be kind of interesting when you're working, with a parent or even with siblings, and you've kind of done both. How's that been over the years?
It was great. You kind of, I think you think your parents, like when you grow up with them and you're in high school, or you're, and you think them, but when you actually work with them for 20 years, as you know, uh-huh. you get to know them on a whole different level, and it's adult on adult, and so yeah, it was a great experience. But he was very authentic. Like he lived out what he believed and treated people really well, and so it was good. It was a good role model.
Well, I think, everything that I hear about people that work with you, you must have picked up on that legacy, because, I hear similar things about you in that way, how you treat your employees and deal with people. So you're celebrating 50 years this year. What what are the kind of things that you guys are doing over at Golden to kind of celebrate this milestone?
Food, food's good. Everyone likes that. Sometimes people celebrate, let's do speeches and do, events. I'm like, let's do stuff that people actually like to do. So every month we, as a company, get together and we'll do a company lunch, and we stepped it up this year. So the quality of the food's a bit better for sure. And then we'll have different people come in and speak. We had our agent from Germany was here last month, so he talked about how the product's used overseas. And then we're doing a big celebration in September where we're inviting customers to come, and we'll have a day of they'll be doing some training, and then also just celebrating. We'll do raffles and stuff for them. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, what's your second generation in your company, and where do you see things moving? Down the road for Golden Engineering. You've got other siblings of children, and you've got children of your own. Is there any chance that you think the company will go to a third generation?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I wasn't interested in working there when I was 15. So you never know. It kind of depends on what their interest is. My kids are ages 13 to 16, and then nieces and nephews we have some that are working age now, but 20. So it just kind of depends on their interest partly.
Right. So, for myself, in 1990, I came to work with my dad. I was thinking a couple of years, and now it's been like 33 years. Mm-hmm. So, but I've enjoyed the opportunity to stay in this community and work. And so, you've chosen that for yourself. When you first came back, you were concerned about, coming to a small city or whatever. And so it's worked out okay. Pretty good for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's been great. From the job standpoint, I didn't appreciate what we did. I didn't really talk to customers. It was cool growing up because we'd have people from overseas come and stay with us, people from England, people from Israel, and that was cool, but I didn't really see the impact of the product. And then it didn't take long, 6 months into the job. I'm like, this is really cool. I really like the customer base. They didn't, Chevrolet customers complain about everything, and our customers don't complain about anything. So that was different, and it was great. But from a social standpoint, it was a little tough. Of again being single, and I had a lot of good friends, made friends in Indianapolis. So like every weekend, almost I'd go over there. I played a lot of volleyball. I'd go over there like Friday night and just spend the night with friends. We played volleyball all weekend and just do different activities. And then I met my wife here when I was 34, and we got married the following year. So I was almost 35. And Anna's great, and she's from here. And it's a great place to raise a family, way cheaper than other places. So that's a big plug for Wayne County. Mm-hmm. So it's great place to raise a family.
What other organizations have you been involved in? I know myself, but sharing maybe with those that might be listening, what are some of the other things that you've enjoyed doing, outside of Golden Engineering, organizations you've been a part of or participated in?
Well, the first one, it was funny. It was short. So I got married in 2002, and shortly after that, Chris Hilkert came to our work, and she was the executive director for Junior Achievement. She actually saw the wedding invitation in the newspaper, and she's like, "Hey, would you have any interest in being on the board for Junior Achievement?" And I'd worked as a volunteer in the classroom, and I liked what they did, but I was like, I'm too young. Like I'm too young to be on a board. I just didn't feel like a full adult. But so Junior Achievement, I did join the board, and it's a great organization. They do good things, and then that led to been on the board for Habitat for Humanity for a while, and the EDC and Boys and Girls Club now for several years, and that's a great organization, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we both serve on that board, and they do a lot of great things in our community. So, I kind of got confused about your college, because I know you're a big Michigan fan, and so I know you went to Taylor, but just kind of blanked on that a little bit.
Well, Taylor on the national scene, they don't have much of a football program, so you got to root for someone that's at least a contender or someone that's worth watching. So.
Yeah, to be a Michigan fan, it is in the Big Ten, but you're kind of in this IU, Purdue, Notre Dame, even Ohio State bubble in this area, So Michigan, root for Michigan probably isn't like a high tier team that most of the local people, really push for. So
yeah, and it was brutal for a long time because my wife's family were big Ohio State fans, so I had to put up with that for Michigan losing to them every year in and year out was tough. So the last couple of years have been a little better.
Yeah. So what's it look like this year?
Good. I don't know. They should have a good team. See what happens at the end of the year.
But. Yeah, it's always that when they get down to the very end, trying to compete with some of these other, the Alabamas or Clemsons or whatever. It seems like just like you need they need just another little bit to get past those teams, which I haven't seen happen yet. But yeah, it's tough business. So, your father was a good Christian man, and we kind of got to know each other first just through attending, worshiping in church together and through that association. So I was just curious how, family and faith how that kind of meshes in business, or has it at all? How that's played a role in your company? If at all?
It played a huge role. Just how you run it and how you treat people, and it played a role for both my parents, and I guess one way I would explain it. This is interesting. I don't know if you remember this, but Barack Obama in 2012 made a comment of well, you didn't build that, talking about the business, and he said, and he kind of was implying, he said, the streets and the infrastructure and everything was like the government built that. So I think what he was getting at a little bit was you're sort of indebted to the government for allowing you to succeed. And I thought, he took some grief for that statement, but I thought it was a really interesting concept of who do you think is ultimately responsible for the success of your business? And is it, the government certainly does play a role. Your employees play a huge role. Your customers play a huge role. But ultimately, in our situation, we go back to God played a role in it. There's things, a company really shouldn't exist. You look at 50 years, when we started, and things that are hard to explain through that 50 years. So it's like God blessed it. God allowed it to happen. He brought people when we needed people. And so you look back and say, well, what is he? And it made my dad nervous because he came from nothing, and to have success and have financial success, it was like, I know, to whom much is given, much is required. To whom much more is given, much more is required. So as it succeeded, he felt a little more uncomfortable, and he kept looking for this one big thing that maybe God wanted him to do, and I don't know that he ever found that thing, but I could see little things along the way, the relationship, again, with employees and with customers, and he made an impact on a lot of different people.
So how many employees are at Golden today, approximately?
28.
28. Yep. And that's when you first came, joined your father, was it smaller then? Or
it was about 15.
15. So it's grown over the years, and so just, I guess, the world that we live in has, unfortunately or fortunately in some ways, created a greater need for your product. Have you seen that?
Yeah. 9/11 for sure. I mean, things shifted hugely at that point, and it was really sad to see that, obviously. But it was nice to be in a position that could help our country. But yeah, it grew a lot after that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing about your company and just kind of having a conversation today. Is there anything else, that we would find you'd like to share about Golden Engineering that you guys do? Or, kind of covered it, but I may have missed something along the way.
No, we do a bunch of stuff. To me, it's all interesting, and I could talk for a lot longer than people want to hear me talk. So,
right. So I guess I was going to ask you, I kind of forgot, I just remember now, but because you sell, your product is all over the world, you've got to travel some around the world. Has that been kind of a cool thing about your job, or do you not do that as much as maybe I'm assuming you have in the past?
Yeah. I could go, it's funny. I could go, we're in 80 different countries, so I could go wherever and visit. My wife and I went to Slovenia, and we visited a bomb squad in Slovenia, and they had our equipment. We've been to Israel a few times and visited our customers there, in England and all over Europe. But anywhere, Japan, whatever. So but I'm more, especially now. I used to travel a lot more before having kids, and
right.
Bring my wife with me sometimes. And I don't like traveling as much now, just too much time away from family. But yeah, it's interesting, and we definitely deal with interesting people. And I went to Russia, went to St. Petersburg and Moscow, and our dealer there was great. And it's sad to see what's going on now. But it's been interesting, and you even see the trends of. We used to sell a ton to Europe. Now we're selling to China and Southeast Asia, and it just is things happen in the world. You see how our sales have changed, but that international dynamic is always really interesting.
The times that you've gone overseas, was there one particular trip that stands out in your mind? It was like kind of a really unique experience, whether it was either just really enjoyable or just maybe kind of weird.
That's a good question. Nothing I want to say.
Maybe you can tell me. You can tell me off mic at a later time.
There's some things that were pretty funny, but I don't know that I really want to say it.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's fine.
I don't want to implicate myself.
Right, so. I understand. No, that's fine. So. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time and talking with us today. And good luck in the rest of the year as you celebrate 50 years. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us today.
All right. Great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roger.
Yep.